I'm sitting here with Nikki Rasmussen, who is VP of Business Development at Banyan, and Paul Jones, who's Vice President of Client Success. And the theme of this conversation is truly about growth and what are dental practices doing to grow today, and how are they leveraging technology to grow, not just to attract, um, to retain customers and patients. Technology is changing the landscape of how patients are finding dentists, as we know that. Google has changed the rules of business. Amazon's changing the rules of the game on the retail side. Google is changing them here. Facebook, for the last 3 years, they have just come about and then are barging on Google's territory in terms of even more deeper engagement with your patients. And so technology is obviously the key driver. It's not the solution, but it's the driver, right? It's the driver that's driving more patients to your practice, or it's not driving them. And also it's helping you retain your patients. It's helping you communicate with them even when they're not in your office, or even when they're not calling you. So that's the theme, right? Is what are practices doing today to first make that first impression, and leveraging technology to make that first impression for them to first connect with you. So that's kind of the first question, right? What trends have you guys seen? Is you've been an amazing technology company that helps patients convert, right? And that's a big part of technology. A lot of the guys don't understand that you go to shows and we meet dentists and they're like, oh, and we hear all this jargon about technology, about, oh, I need to have SEO, and I need to have all this pay-per-click, I need to have advertising. At the end of the day, if that technology does place you on the platform, and not everybody can be the first page, but let's say people find you, but after they find you, they don't really feel like doing anything else, then that technology has not done its job, right? So what is in terms of patient acquisition, if we were talking about, because that ties into growth right away, is how does Banyan help in patient acquisition?
So we talked about growth, right? And we're talking about growth in the online space, growth when your patient comes in, and growth after they've left.
Right.
So before we had the digital world, growth was all about being as present as you could possibly be. I was in Seattle recently, and we were traveling through the highways, and I saw a dental billboard. And so in terms of the way you could be present in the real world, is you could do billboards, you could do postcards, you could do newspaper articles, all kinds of things. But in today's world, growth is happening online. So it's all about being present. The more present you are online, the more available you are to your patients, and your patients know how to seek you out and find you.
And even if the patients are finding you, let's say, billboards in certain markets do work still.
Right.
But even if they see the billboard, they're still going online and checking you out before they give you a call. So from a patient acquisition standpoint, you really have to be present, and you have to quickly communicate your why to the patient, in the form of content, in the form of social validation that you guys provide, and in terms of just motivating them and moving them to the position where they should call, right? Now,
it really comes down in my mind to two really simple things. First, you have to be relevant. What you're putting online has to be relevant to the person you're trying to capture their attention of. And then second is frequency. You can't post something online and then think that that's going to last forever. You have to be consistently in front of them, or else you'll kind of fall by the wayside.
but does that help with from a patient acquisition standpoint? I think we're talking about having a presence, having the reviews.
Absolutely.
So as the patient moves from that journey, then they decide to make that phone call, right? Obviously, we were formed at Patient Prism to really, we knew there was a problem there. There was a gap, and they were
Sure.
calling in. Patients were not getting booked. um, due to a variety of reasons, all centered around experience of the patient.
Sure.
And so we're using artificial intelligence in that space to kind of make sure that we understand the conversations that are happening, and if they're not optimal, then we're helping them become optimal
Right.
through immediate feedback and immediate training. And that's how we're leveraging technology, is to get new customers who have, let's say, liked the experience, and they have liked the reviews, but now they're ready to make the next step. And kind of we fit. That's again the reason why our relationship works well, is because that patient acquisition dilemma, we're solving that in a meaningful way.
Absolutely.
But it also then translates into, okay, you have a patient, and we talked about this earlier, like growth comes in many ways. New patients are there, the patients have come in, but now you've presented treatment and they have to accept that treatment. And again, how does Banyan help in helping patients accept more treatment? What's that role? So that's where growth happens as well, because you can have all the patients in the world, but if they don't accept treatment, what's really the point?
And you've done all this work on the online presence, and they come in, they have a great phone call experience, you get them in, and again, what are your patients judging you on? And they're judging you off of their experience. And so anything you can do to enhance the experience that they have when they come into your office we've seen it has increases case acceptance, because it's a know, like, trust cycle. So your patients have to get to know you online, then they have to come in and have to like the experience, but when they trust you is when they will accept cases.
Nice.
And with the white coat, there's already some trust there, but you need to validate that trust to the patient, and you do that by the way that you treat them.
And Paul brings up a good point. Most patients don't know if the implant that this tenant's going to do is going to be any different than the guy down the street. Right? So that cycle that he's talking about is tremendously important for case acceptance.
Right. So the content on the platform that you guys provide has to be both relevant and frequent for patients to look at it and say, ooh, okay, I trust this
Right.
doctor, because I see other people who have gone through the same experience I've been through, and they're happy,
Right.
and it was a pleasant experience. So that matters, right? So that's how you kind of help in the middle of the journey of the patient, where they're trying to get treatment. And the end of the journey is how do you prevent customers from leaving you? How do you prevent patients from leaving your practice? And I think that again, it go back to the same model, is that we have to engage with the patient even when they're not communicating with us. And how does social media and Banyan especially help in that communication that's not direct communication, because you're not really, sometimes obviously you're calling upon the patients, but to kind of book them for recare and stuff. But when you're not online, when they're not communicating with you, how does the patient communicate without calling you or without dealing with you?
And that's the interesting thing, is like back in the day, your ability to reach out to patients who you've already seen was really kind of limited. You could call them, you could put up a billboard, but in today's world, it is about being present. So what we want to do is you want to remind your patient about the experience that they had. So if you're posting meaningful stories on Facebook and your patient's following your Facebook page, you're giving them a constant reminder of the moment that mattered that they experienced in your practice. And so that patient's going to be more likely to come into your practice again for that 6-month cleaning or
Right.
whatever it might be. So your recall increases because you're ever present in your patient's mind.
And that helps the process, right? Here we are solving many problems using technology and presence online. We're solving the patient acquisition problem, which is, then we're solving the conversion problem through Patient Prism, what we're doing. Then we're solving the case acceptance problem, because now there is trust being built continuously with the validation that happens constantly on your platform, because you're making it easy for the validation to happen. And then it also helps in retention and patients coming back and readily making those 6-month appointments, or making those appointments because they feel that they need to be connected to you. And that's what it's all about. it's the connection that I feel and technology is allowing us, your company and my company, both of us, to connect with patients better and
Yeah.
elevate the conversation on a different level than just, okay, here's an ad for Invisalign. It's not about that anymore. It is about
Right.
about changing lives, and that's what we're doing, is elevating the conversations to a whole new level where we're building trust.
Well, what I love about our partnership is that you guys are doing very similar things that we're doing, but you're doing it with phone calls. You're changing the office from, let me just answer this phone call, to how can I make this phone call a better experience?
Right.
Because that's the first time that a patient's really going to interact with an office
Right.
on a voice-to-voice level. So your first impressions matter. And again, I think that in the dental space, we think about answering the phone as it's just answering the phone, but that is really a part of the entire experience. And so that's why I think being able to work with you guys and is really beneficial, and the message that we're both sharing is a really powerful message that we obviously want as many people to see as possible.
Well, great.